Hey everyone, it's me, Julian Greystoke. Check out this awesome shirt. Yeah, is not this the best shirt for me? Nobody bought it for me, I bought it for myself, because every now and then, you gotta treat yourself, am I right? So today we are going to be talking about a book called Eona. This is the second book in a duology, so please go check out my review of Eon. Links in the doobly-doo. Some of you may know that I didn't love Eon, but the book was okay and definitely enough to get me to read the second one. And the second one, oh, no. If there was a third book, I would not be reading it. Nigel's here, here's his tail. Jane is also here, but Nigel got to my lap first, so haha. Oh my goodness, okay. While Eon, the book, explored a lot of ideas and maybe wasn't the best at it, this book is just terrible at exploring some of these ideas, in my opinion. Let's talk about it. We're just going to get right into one of the things that I hated the most, and that is the love triangle that is in this book. While the first book didn't have any romance at all, this book has a love triangle, and it is bad. We have the nice boy and the bad boy, and the bad boy is the villain from the previous book. Now, when I figured out that he was going to be a character in this book, I was initially excited. Eona's gonna have to work with one of her enemies and figure out how she's gonna make that work. It's gonna be great, it's gonna be intense, yay. And then he's suddenly super handsome and is a potential love interest. Woman, he tried to rape you twice. He is responsible for the downfall of the kingdom. He is not and should not be a viable romantic interest. You know, in my head when I was first reading this book and they brought back the villain, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be funny if he turned out to be the other love interest? That would be so bad. And then the book did it and I was like, no, that was a joke. That was a joke. Ah! It seemed pretty obvious to me that the author really wrote herself into a corner with that character by making him so blanketly despicable in the previous book, and I was not a fan. So you know how in the previous book I mentioned that Eona made every possible mistake? I was hoping that perhaps she would have learned something from that, but not really. She doesn't make maybe quite as many mistakes. She does manage to be honest with people, I feel like, more often than she is dishonest with them. There are some consent issues in this book. When Eona uses her dragon power to heal people, because she's a female dragon, so of course she would have healing powers, which nobody else had. That's a cliche that never gets old. When she heals someone, she becomes like a bonded with them psychically and can take over their bodies and control them and also steal their energy. And one of my favorite characters from the previous book, Raiko, has that happen to him. Now, at first, I understand. Eona doesn't understand this power, so she does it accidentally. Oops, I'm so sorry, Raiko. Raiko is obviously deeply upset by this, because who wouldn't be? Somebody has just taken control of your body and forced you to do something you didn't want to do. But then, Eona gets a better handle on this power, and she keeps doing it to Raiko, her friend. And she keeps being like, afterwards, she keeps being like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, you are the epitome of an abuser. You hurt someone, and then you apologize later, and then you do it again. You horrible, horrible bitch. And she never comes to understand that maybe she should ask his permission. That simple. At one point she has to prove something to the Emperor, who is the other side of her love triangle. Sorry if I didn't mention that earlier, I was too mad about the other side of the love triangle. So she has to prove that she can do this. And rather than turn to Raiko and ask him, may I show this power that I have to the Emperor, please? And Raiko saying yes or no and her having to respect his answer. Instead, she just does it again without his permission. Bitch, he is standing right there. I was screaming at the book by that point. I was screaming, ask his permission! The consent issues in this book. Like, I'm fine with a character starting out not knowing that that's bad and learning and having to come to terms and learn about consent. But she never does. What is supposed to be happening in this book is Eona is supposed to be conflicted between light side and dark side, essentially. The light side of the Force and her handsome prince, and the dark side of the Force and the evil rapist man, who should not be an option. But it never feels like Eona is learning and growing throughout this book. Oh, we've swapped cats. Jane is here now. She just goes back and forth, hems and haws constantly. Do I go with the light side? Oh, but the dark side is so tempting and I want power and sexy, sexy power. With the dark side powers, it's also sexual. Because, yeah, of course it is. And of course at the end you know what she's going to choose, but it almost feels unnatural because this character never had growth. And it was never clear whether she was learning, it was never clear whether she was becoming either a better or a more evil person. I would have taken one or the other. Although it does seem like maybe she's leaning towards evil at the end, but you know that's just to throw you off before she chooses good. One of the other themes of the story was motherhood. Eona doesn't know her mother, and she gets to meet her later in the story, and it is so freaking pointless. Lady Dila, my other favorite character from the previous book, is so a mother figure to Eona. I thought maybe that's where they were going to go, because Eona gets to meet her mother, and then she also spends some time with the woman who sort of raised her, another servant from her childhood when she was living with her master in the previous book. Lady Dila is never brought into it as a potential mother, and I was very upset by this. Lady Dila is like, girl, I am here for you. Don't do the horrible thing that you're doing, but I'm here for you. And there was never a moment where Eona realized, Dila, you've been my mother all along, and the motherhood thing was just kind of thrown by the wayside. Now, I would say perhaps the book is trying to be subtle and let us, the reader, realize that Dila is Eona's real mother, even if Eona doesn't realize it, except for much of this book is super not subtle, so I feel like I'm not going to give the author credit for that. This book, 1 star on Goodreads. I loathe it. Was there anything that I liked about it? I guess the character of the Emperor was okay. Not nearly okay enough to save it, though. So, guys, did you read Eona? If you did, tell me what you thought about it. Jane would like to remind you all that all the links to my social media are down in the doobly-doo, down by where he is sleeping right now. Check that out. I have a ton. And of course, don't forget that I post new videos here Mondays and Fridays, and I will see you all next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye!